Thank you, Jon. And I'd like to thank you, Halldór, Birta. I have to work on my Icelandic pronunciations, but Halldór, Birta, Dorothy, that's easier, and Sirra for inviting and for hosting this very special event. I'm getting closer to Iceland. It feels nice. I would also like to thank my colleagues and all the people taking part of the panels and giving presentations. It's been very fun to listen to the different overviews, and this being dragged backwards, perhaps against my will, Jonas, to the 90s. There's a lot of memories there. And I was very happy to see Ellen Wikström somehow inscribed in an Icelandic performance tradition in some kind of secluded space. That was really interesting, and I like her work a lot, so that I'm pleased today. And if there's anybody I don't mention, I am enjoying the whole of it. My name is Mats Stjernstedt. I'm the director of Index in Stockholm. I'm going to talk about Index today, to present it for you in some way. So the presentation will include an introduction, perhaps, better explained, to Index activities, relating to a selection of its projects and exhibitions. I will also dwell and try to elaborate on this notion of the alternative that seems to crop up wherever we go. I will really make use of this idea of the specialist. I thought that was very clever, in fact, and quite rightfully so. I will also conclude this presentation with very short presentations of some of my peers and colleagues running independent space and artist-run space in Sweden. That will be last one out. Maybe I should clarify that Index is not an artist-run space. I run Index together with my colleague Helena Holmberg. We answer to a board that consists, for the most part, of artists, but also of fashion designers, and there's an architect. But there used to be an advisory board to which I also was connected, that there was a lot of artists taking part of that one, but it was an invention from the 70s, so I got rid of it. It wasn't really, it didn't really function in the year of the noughties. I don't know how much you can see that actually, but what it is, I will describe it to you instead. It's the web page of the Swedish Art Council, which is Index main funder and provider of economy. And it's a bit ironic, or funny maybe, rather, that if you click on, when you go to their web page and you click on, you have different possibilities, but if you click on subsidies, then an image of Index appears. And so we are, they fund us major time. I will give you now a background to Index. It's since 1998, it's run by Index, the Swedish Contemporary Art Foundation, which is an organization founded by Fotograficentrum. Index was started as a Fotograficentrum. Fotograficentrum was a non-profit membership association founded in 1974. That makes us the second oldest independent space in Sweden. There's one in Gothenburg, which is older. Fotograficentrum had a pronounced engagement in issues concerning society, and with an ambition of the association's activities was to heighten photography status as an art form. Fotograficentrum also created and published the magazine index, formerly Bildtidningen. I think Maria introduced briefly index to you yesterday. That it was index that eventually merged with 6C and then became new. But in the beginning it was connected to the space, although the different practices between the exhibitions and the magazine, it was totally divided, and it was run by different teams. Today, Index is a site for art production and distribution, a place where artistic and audience-related activities are carried out. The focus is directed towards contemporary art and curatorial practice, with the aim of providing a ground for creativity in a wider sense of the word. Each year, a few exhibitions are produced for the gallery space, but in addition, different artistic expressions in various forms, such as, for instance, screenings, performance, readings, lectures, artist talks and conversations, and workshops, are promoted to influence the program with the desired mobility. Funding in this moment is provided for a larger part by the Swedish National Council for Cultural Affairs and the Stockholm County Council. We also, I should also mention that apart from having these activities parked inside our exhibition space, Index is quite active in terms of striking up collaborations, working with other institutions, being their guests, making exhibitions in other spaces, also inviting other institutions to host their exhibitions. You will see some evidence of that. And we also work from time to time in public space. Index do not represent single artists, but the gallery has throughout the years had an indisputable importance in promoting the art of young Swedish and international renowned established artists in a non-hierarchical relationship. And I can say this because I haven't always worked at the Index, so it was great when I came here. So we come back to this notion of the alternative, a word that already seemed to have surfaced in the discussions yesterday and also today. And yesterday I think it somehow surfaced in relation to the concept of emerging. I'm in fact a bit unclear what this term really means to me. But since I speak from out of this part of the program, I will try to address it anyway. From a personal note, I have been busy working from out of different motives when developing an individual project on a freelance basis, or with the development of an institution for which I am function as the head. At the same time, an idea of alternative has never been important to me in the same way as, for instance, being experimental or being reflexive or being inventive, not at least for the sake of economy and to work creatively with that. But when I view what has actually been produced at Index throughout the years, I can appreciate that methods, ideas, and decision of how to work with artists that has been carried out. I actually realize that maybe this is the alternative. This is what makes us different. On a different note, I wonder how much being alternative, is desired for, especially when I start to look at the circumstances under which I'm working at the moment. Both Maria and Cecilia has sketched out some kind of profile or a landscape, which is the one that I'm working in the current moment. An institutional landscape in Stockholm. And also Marianne Sameshnik, you pointed out the type of energy that was very significant in Stockholm, say, for a couple of years ago. With artist-run initiatives such as Konst 2, I don't have them represented with an image, I will just mention them. Konst 2, Konst 2, After Shopping, Sam, Modern Talking, Southern Comfort, they all have names like that, etc. etc. The fact is that very little is left of this. Obvious, this was tied to certain personas that changed their direction, that got tired or left town. If we continue to look at this institutional landscape, and if we just generalize a little bit, what is quite obvious and what is the big change throughout the last couple of years is that corporate forces are now the new donors, the new facilitators of contemporary art expressions. In Cecilia's list yesterday, I think there were at least 3 private-sponsored Kunsthalles included, and we know that at least 3 are in the coming for the next coming years. It's pretty amazing, actually. So they are all large scale. They are all similar in amount of square meters, if you compare them. And they have all the same ambition level for the future, it seems. I would like to mention that this idea of accessing, because this is what I will soon be describing, is this idea of, and which also has become index reality and spaces that are similar to index in constitution and economy and program and idea. We are also somehow supposed to merge, to join forces with these corporate forces. It does not really only, it's not only the result of 3 years of conservative government and also a conservative ruling in City Hall. It was, as I remember it, it was there already when there was a social democratic regime. This idea had already started to surface. But I think it will increase in speed since in the last election, the Conservative Party in Stockholm was recently given a new mandate. They will continue to rule. And yeah, let's see what it will bring. And I already have some fears. I will soon explain. I would also like to point out that I don't oppose a landscape, an institutional landscape that consists of mixed economy. It's not really that. In short, if I lose myself, it's just because I don't see what I have sort of scribbled beside my other notes. So I always do it in order to think it will help me, and it always sort of confuses me. But for an institution like Index or something similar to Index, it will be very difficult to just to change the identity or change its network or change its basic idea. So this is not happening it won't happen overnight, and there is no preparation. Nobody is prepared. There's no tradition, and so on. I will not complain. It's very unsexy, but it's a problem, I think. But it's very interesting now. I note what kind of signal which are being sent out. For instance, without the questions, the culture of the culture administration of Stockholm Council. I don't think they have a wish for index to be alternative from this kind of new economy, the mixed economy. I think they are very interested that we all jump on this train as soon as possible. And I would like to give you 2 examples, which just, well, they just entered my mailbox like the last 2 weeks. And the first one, the following message, came from the cultural administration again. This is the function within the city hall in Stockholm, which administrates culture. This came into my mailbox. Innovative culture announces funding through crowdsourcing. This is what I didn't remember, this word, when we spoke earlier. Crowdsourcing. This is a new word. You have to remember it. Innovative culture, I should also say, it's, you may have to help me a little bit, Cecilia, but I think it is. It's consults, different people that don't necessarily, or don't at all, come from the contemporary art world or even from the cultural sphere. They are consults, and they come basically and mainly from corporate structures and from different parts of society. But these people are now being given the mandate to suggest and to advise what kind of artistic production is interesting and worthwhile going with. And they have the politicians' ears, and it's very interesting to see what kind of, because there has been one application through in the innovative culture already, and it's quite clear that the project that are being granted has populistic tint to them. And if you are applying with a performance program, as was the fact, which was my application, I was not granted any. It was not an interesting project according to the innovative culture. It wasn't innovative, I guess. So this email came from Innovative Culture. Innovative Culture tests a new way of distributing cultural support based on citizens' own will. The test will be open for 3 months and allocate funds for cultural projects from a combination of private individuals, business, and publicity sources. Those who have projects, ideas that many believe in, and note this, and who are looking for smaller sums, have the best chance to find the time to be funded during the test period. So this is a test period. But it will be very interesting what kind of projects will receive funding from out of this crowdsourcing. So clearly, expertise from the field is now being replaced with more populist strategies. A second thing, the council, the Stockholm Cultural Council, has also worked out a system since a couple of years already of bonuses, which are aimed to stimulate contact surfaces between the corporate and the state-funded institutions, opting towards more cash flow and increased numbers of audience. I received another email. And that was a series of, it was actually a questionnaire, and I was supposed to answer yes or no. And these were direct questions directed to me as responsible for an art institution. So I quote the questionnaire. Are you aware of the objectives of the bonus to increase the proportion accession of own revenue? And then you had 2 boxes you could tick, yes or no. Are you aware of the objectives of the bonus to increase the proportion of young people and children? Yes, no. Do you feel that it was important for the culture department to clearly communicate the bonus objective for your organization? Already now, it feels like I'm signing a contract of some sort. But this goes on. Next question. Have you changed your audience work after the introduction of the bonus system? In this moment, I was able to express myself on 2 lines, at least. Have you changed your effort to seek new partnerships after the introduction of the bonus system? Question mark. And these, I don't say that these are irrelevant questions, but then comes another question. Will you change your work with repertoire productions after the introduction of the bonus system? And I just wonder, what should I answer? What is the right answer? It's quite outrageous, I think. And it happens so fast, don't you think? Anyway, let's leave this very tragic area and continue to be alternative and specialist. As I mentioned, I will, in order to to paint out some kind of picture of what I've been doing at Index with my colleague during the last 9 years, I have chosen a few projects that I find is especially interesting to highlight in this situation. When the gallery relocated in 2006 to its current premises due to reconstructing of the yearly funding, it started to, in a more extensive way, reflect on what kind of time, space, and production possibilities we actually up till then had achieved to offer our collaborative partners, the artists that we've been working with. In pair with this is one of these very messy ones. So Index wishes to convey for its audience now different dimensions and formats, dealing with perceptions and comprehensions of time and space. And these have actually somehow determined the different examples that I'm putting together for you today. This is an exhibition by Harun Farocki, an exhibition with a certain density. It consisted of 13 hours of film, where my colleague and I set up this library situation, where an audience were offered to order out works for viewing. There was also one more cinematic installations, where films also could be viewed by a larger group of people. But it was up to you to choose in between these different works. Farocki has been an important reference for other filmmakers and artists, as well as for media theorists since the 1960s. His analytical use of film is unique, both with regard to the quantity of films he has made, well over 100, and the influence he has had on the contemporary discussion of image as a language and tool for political structures. The exhibition that we offered comprised 12 films. This collection includes the very early Nicht löschbares Feuer from 1969, which deals of the use of napalm and the American chemical industry's role in the Vietnam War. There were also single-channel versions of his later works, Auge Maschine, 1, 2, 3, and Gegenmusik, which investigates various contemporary visualization techniques used, for example, for surveillance and industrial production. thinking of this very complex time dimension of actually viewing the work or viewing the exhibition, the artist, generously enough, donated all the exhibition's copies to Index in order for it to be viewed at Index at all times for the future. Next time in Stockholm, you're very welcome to spend some time. In a co-production with the Momentum Biennial in 2006, Index published this book in an edition of 1,000 copies. And this was a book by Kajsa Dahlberg. The title of the book is A Room of One's Own, 1,000 Libraries. And the book in its 1,000 copies was the exhibition. So we have a different format again, which I think was a very accomplished and interesting exhibition. The exhibition embodies works permitted by an activist idea of how an individual actually can appropriate different public spaces and then operate within them, and how the format of an exhibition can be scaled down to the uttermost private and intimate space, consisting by somebody reading a book, but then also interacting with the content. As you can see, it doesn't look like any normal book. It looks a bit crazy, and that's because somehow this book summons up the moment when the reader becomes the writer. And what the artist had done, it was to compile a vast number of marginal notes made by readers in the library editions of Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own, first published by Hogarth Press in 1929. The data compiled in the Dahlberg version of Woolf's text derives from books borrowed by the artist in public libraries all over Sweden. Each page has then, from the original book pages, has then from out of a large number of the different library books been manually copied into a facsimile. This book was then on display in the exhibition space and also sold and distributed from the exhibition space for quite a small sum. It is now sold out, and it also gradually started to disappear because of the artist's wish to actually place copies out in the existing libraries as a neighbor to the real copy, or to Virginia Woolf's book. It should be, she placed it in different libraries in order for this book to function as a shadow or a ghost, as she describes it. This project I choose because I think it's quite interesting to offer an artist to experiment with his or her own methods and particular interests. And this artist, Martin Karlsson, works with documentary practices. It's often presented as context or site-specific works. Over the last few years, this Martin Karlsson has been mainly working with staging of history. And this project, which is called Old Stockholm, Gamla Stockholm, is one of the earliest expressions. And it was a project that in fact was carried out during our relocation process, where we invited ourselves, more or less, into Stockholm City Museum, where we in turn invited Martin to conceptualize a project for us. And this work, Old Stockholm, is based upon pictures from Stockholm City Museum archive that show Old Stockholm, a part of the Art and Industry exhibition in Stockholm of 1897. Old Stockholm was an interpretative reconstruction of the 16th century capital, the town of the Vasa kings, where period buildings were constructed and complemented with period costumed actors and medieval menus in the restaurants. Paradoxically, the medieval surroundings also provided a backdrop for a series of technological innovations. From the Swedish National Archive of Recorded Sound in Movies, Index and the artist managed to secure a couple of the very first moving images to be made in Sweden, and the consequence of the Lumiere brothers' visit to the Stockholm exhibition. The vintage material in the exhibition was set against contemporary documentation from Stockholm's Fännikan, a historical reenactment society that brings to life the same historical period as portrayed in Old Stockholm. So the work consisted of collected photographs, drawings, costumes, and films. And we managed to get this museum to function as a studio space, a working place, an endless resource of kind for this, from which the artist could bring out material to use for his purpose. That's another view of the exhibition. To the left, you see these very early samples of film experiments in Sweden. And that vitrine collected clothing and other armory details from this Stockholm's Fännikan group and from the museum's own collection. Sorry. I love Iceland, but it gives me some asthmatic problems. So I'm putting this exhibition in predominantly to show that in many instances we do not produce. There are a lot of existing works that are still equally valid to show. This is an exhibition with Matthew Buckingham. Buckingham's work reveals an interest in the construction of historical reality and how genres like film and literature connect to notions of history and its underlying narratives. In this exhibition, such conceptions were put under scrutiny and given a visual representation, whilst narrative structures are made meaningful by elements of voiceover. And Buckingham, we choose two work by him, and that was to juxtapose the slide work of image of Absalom to be projected until it vanishes, and the 60mm film False Future, two works addressing ideas of historical presence versus the non-appearance. False Future film installation tells the story about Louis Le Prince, the French inventor who, after his technological invention consisting of an 8-lens camera, mysteriously disappears after stepping onto a train in 1890. The slide piece, image of Absalom to be projected until it vanishes, portrays the statue of Copenhagen's mythical founder Absalom towards a wide open sky, shot from behind, almost disappearing and out of frame. The fact that the slide is slowly fading due to the heat of the projected light contributes to the work's transitional nature, and it also contributes to this feeling of dissolve that permitted this exhibition and this juxtaposition. I mentioned that we work sometimes, occasionally, with public work. And this is one example. It's with a Ukrainian artist, Alevtina Kahidze, who lives and works outside Kiev, who we got in contact with while doing an exhibition at the CCA, Center for Contemporary Art in Kiev, an exhibition that also toured to the Artists Union Gallery in Odessa. Then when making research in Ukraine, we got in contact with Alevtina, and we invited her to take part in the two shows in Ukraine, and then we also invited her to develop a project with us in Stockholm. And we had this fantastic opportunity that we could work with Jaspis. So Alevtina, in fact, stayed for 6 months, and in order to prepare this work for us. And she also worked with a project for Jaspis, preparing during a month. I think there was a weekly new comment that was presented in a vitrine very close to Jaspis premises. Yeah. Former Eastern European countries' financial exclusion from a neoliberal and global market has during recent years changed into a rather aggressive inclusion. Investors in and co-creators of these new and rapidly growing economical systems. In some cases, unjust social conditions still remain, partially due to this kind of new economy. Kakitse's work may be understood from out of this perspective as a starting point for how dreams may break towards the condition of reality. In the project, Kakitse juxtaposes drawings with text that could be seen in a textile installation on Norrmalmstorg Square in Stockholm, in close connection to very exclusive boutiques and department stores in the heart of Stockholm's shopping area around Biblioteksgatan. The artist erected this public artwork, a stylized architecture, a wall element, a protection, a secluded space. Functioning as a display for a hand-printed fabric designed by the artist, it was put on view at a symbolic trading site where the possibility of financial transactions had been removed from the work. Can I get some light? This is a very dark image. What you may not see is it's a circular table structure with some viewers. I choose to present the Swedish artist Saskia Holmqvist's two film productions because it says something about Index International network and the way we have some kind of strategy or that we have had throughout the last couple of years in order to produce things or produce artist projects. This was in collaboration with Navhak, curator at Arnolfini Gallery, and we were interested in producing two films with Saskia Holmqvist, and we did so with the joint forces with Arnolfini, and these two exhibitions opened within the period of the same week. So there was one opening in Bristol and one opening in Stockholm. Saskia Holmqvist's films in character and role control are complementary in as much that they reciprocally develop a narrative that explores ideas of credibility, social strategies, and the way we engage in role-playing in certain situations of conflict. The two works originate in four kinds of conversation situations with diametrically opposite aims, dealing with interpersonal and political positions: the job interview, the interrogation, couple therapy, and political arbitration. These situations are relationships negotiated and which require strategies for productive dialogue and conflict managers. Saskia Holmqvist's work becomes an investigation of the factors that define and control power relations and how these relations can be negotiated. The work asks questions about the fine line between dialogue and demonstration of power, both at the individual level and in the political arena. I should also say that the work was also toured to Frankfurt and to Istanbul and to Oslo by invitation of Chus Martinez, Aura Seikule, and Marianne Zameshnik. And we are currently discussing with Marita Mukkonen to also show this in Helsinki at HIAP and trying to find means in order for this to happen. some more on international. Oh God, 3 minutes. I just started. I don't know, how do I go from here? I don't know. We have to skip international collaborations. This is Katarina Scheda and Fritz Kvasthoff. There's so many good things that I'd like to say about this. This is Fritz Kvasthoff and Tomasz Waniek. It's part of a long-term collaborative that we have worked out with Transit in Prague, and that dealt with, during in this moment in time, it dealt with Index and Transit trying to merge into one institution, and thereby having activities in 2 cities. Huh? Yeah, they get a lot from money, I must say. Yeah, okay. So that it was a recording, and what was created, that where Fritz Kvasthoff was moving in a rectangular sphere around the Tomasz Waniek, who was recording the sound, and it created this rectangular space in your head when you were listening to it. Yeah. Just to mention something, that we do not only put efforts into exhibitions and lasting projects. This is perhaps one of the 2 very ambitious projects that we have done this year. It's a performance that we produced with Dora Garcia. Her exhibitions was with the already existing works, and but this was a big thing for us to commission the text and to translate it and to work with an actor. And this exhibition then went to Bandkunsthalle in a smaller version. And I should mention very briefly this project, because it's very special and it's also very ambitious. It's with the artist Carl Larsson and the artist Marcel Brothers. And we had this idea of doing a Marcel Brothers exhibition, but thinking of that we are not a museum, we cannot work with this kind of museological iconography that Marcel Brothers' work somehow sort of works with or play with. We decided that we wanted to do a different exhibition, and we invited Carl Larsson, who's a young artist and poet based in Brussels but educated in Stockholm, to work with us as a co-curator for the show, but also to develop his own work for this exhibition. And he was invited with us to come on to the research trip that we made throughout last year, and this is where we're meeting Annie de Decker, who was one of the founders of Wide Space in Antwerp, which was one of the earliest spaces to showcase the work of Brothers. Yeah, I should say that this conversation that we have had with Transit throughout the years, it still consists, but it has actually grown into a larger circle of other institutions that are invited, and we meet quite regularly and somehow workshop or discuss maybe our different ideas. And this project in particular has been developed in dialogue with Aneta Szilak of Vispa Institute in Gdańsk, and what's the name? Razvanion from Pavilion in Bucharest, and Vita Vranek of Transit in Org again. As a part of the project, Carl Larsson presented this, a paratext written to the show, a collection of poetry with the same title as the exhibition, which was titled Parrot, and which we commissioned from him. According to Carl Larsson, a book can be seen as a form that can harbor, generate, and repeat poetic statements. The perspective of the parrot that Larsson has chosen to take in his work with the exhibition is based on the idea of how the parrot's body is inhabited by others. The bird mimics these people's languages and creates comical and uncanny resemblances. The exhibition's presentation of Marcel Brothers, maybe we have time to see something, that's the book. Yeah. Was quite small and concentrated in view of his intense and short but very comprehensive and complex oeuvre. 3 works by Brothers create an associative context, which was commented on by Carl Larsson. Brothers' works La souris écrira, ABC ABC Image, La pluie, are works where Brothers are exercising his personal method of playing with an understanding of words and text references. And these works are, as you can see, cited by Carl Larsson's interventions in terms of spatial constructions and sculptural objects. By serving as a co-curator with Index, Larsson was part of creating the conditions for viewing the works for the compilation and how they are commented, the latter also in the format of an integrated series of lectures that put the light on Brothers' activities both as poet and visual artist. Larsson chose to work with the specific animal figures. The parrot refers exceedingly to some of Marcel Brothers' artistic and literary strategies, such as the fascination for animals or for the tautological repetition. It became Carl Larsson's method of approaching Brothers' activities as a poet and a visual artist. The parrot is an echo or a mediator of nonsense. It borrows somebody else's language, something which in this case reflected the fact that parrot was Larsson's English literary debut. I'll stop.